And I get distracted really easily with my open head centers. So if you can, unless it's like a burning question that really feels super relevant, then maybe hold on and we can save some time for that at the end. And just everyone just shh, just do that just give me a so. But all right. Boom. All right, welcome to my talk on the wings of the phoenix. I thought it would be a good idea to, I got inspired and responded to the idea of talking about the cross of the sleeping phoenix, particularly not so much the age that we're moving into in 27, or the background theme is that's what we're moving into, moving off the cross of planning into the age of the sleeping phoenix. But I thought just to actually talk about the cross itself and the four arms of the cross, the four gates that make up the Incarnation Cross of the sleeping phoenix, to give people an idea of what is this, what are these four energies when you put them together. An Incarnation Cross is basically an alchemy of the four personality and design sun earth gates. So we all have an Incarnation Cross, which defines our points to our purpose here, and it's when those four gates come together, they create a kind of a magic in our life and a purpose that we're or a geometry that we're meant to move along in our life path. So I'm a sleeping phoenix, and this, when you talk about something, it's kind of the best way to learn about it. So I thought, what really came up for me too is as I was over the years, when you hear about the sleeping phoenix, and it sounds pretty magical, right? It's like a phoenix, and Ra talks about it like explains it as a kind of obviously it's got a mythical and mystical kind of energy to it. He's even said, when you do a reading for a sleeping phoenix, you have to treat it like you have to go about it like it's a shamanic, ceremony or something like that. And so I relate to a lot of that, but I wanted to, look at those four arms and say, well, how do these four gates create that energy? What is that? Because he never really comes out 100% clear and says, to put it simply, when a sleeping phoenix wakes up, they're here to wake other people up. So, and that's kind of what's implied there. The phoenix mythologically is this, this mystical creature that, rises to the top and then crashes and burns and then repeats the cycle over and over again, rises from the ashes. And so, people have asked me before, well, is that your life? Are you constantly, dying and being reborn? And, I've had a few, pretty big experiences, but most of us have, if we're on some kind of journey. But then I started kind of looking at my life, and some of this is going to be some personal stories here, but and I was actually like, oh yeah, I have. So I'm going to start off with a little poem that I actually wrote the other day, because it actually kind of became a deep experience for me, really thinking about this death and rebirth experience. So some of this is a little abstract, some of it's literal, so I kind of started off with this feeling of my personality crystal or my soul or whatever was all excited to take rebirth and all excited to get a body again and come into form, And so I kind of started with that feeling of being really enthusiastic about wanting to, embody again. And so that's where I'm starting from. So just when I was ready to be born, I came in with missing bones, and I had to get my body cut up and learn to keep taking one step at a time. And just when I was starting to feel normal, I remembered that I was on a path. I remembered my parents were not my real parents, and I had to die to who I thought I was. And just when I was getting comfortable with the unknown, I was hit by lightning and saw death. They told me to start over. They told me to stop running and face my fears and embody. And just when I thought I knew it all, late 20s, I was exiled from my community, left to start over with only my own truth. And just when that tree grew, the same person who watered my soil showed up one day with an axe and tore my heart out. And just when I thought I was becoming fully embodied again, I relived my birth trauma and gave birth to myself again, starting at ground zero. And as I started to come back to living with awareness, I experienced 1,000 more deaths, my own and others, over and over, until I surrendered completely. And that is when the birds began to wake up. So, looking back at my life, I realized, I have, just when I thought I was at this peak of awareness or experience or wisdom or love or health, something came and just broadsided me, and I had to start all over again in some way. So, I guess I do rise from the ashes. And so, but when I started thinking about that, I'm like, oh shit, what's coming next? What cycle am I in where I'm not seeing what I can't fully see, and maybe because I'm not supposed to, and what's coming, but there's no way to know. So anyway, bigger picture, and I'm just going to cover a lot of the basics really today. So this Incarnation Cross is, the 4 gates are the 34th gate of the sacral center, the 20th gate in the throat, the 59th gate in the sacral center, and the 55th gate in the solar plexus. And so you can see the 34 and 20 are opposed to each other in the wheel, and the 55 and the 59 are opposed to each other in the wheel. So anyone who's a sleeping phoenix is going to have either the 55 and 59 on one side of the design or personality, and the 34-20 on the other side of either the design or personality. So, bigger picture, this alchemy that happens is this 2034. This is what makes this phoenix sleeping. So, and this is essentially anyone who's what we call a pure manifesting generator. Because of that, doesn't mean pure like better or anything. It's just there's no filter from the sacral to the generative energy. Is no filter between that and the manifestation of the throat. So anyone who's a pure manifesting generator with 3420 has this same tendency to be asleep, because it's the channel of charisma. It's actually one of the 3 fixed life forces that life has created. Meaning, there's 3 oppositions in the wheel that always make up a full channel. So the 34-20 are opposed to each other, and they always make up the channel of charisma, the 43-23 channel of structuring, and the 37-40. So that says a lot about those channels, that you meet a lot of people with those 3 channels. And that just says that we need these. We need us. These are like critical life forces on the planet, community, structure and busy bringing things into form. So anyway, maybe there's a better way to say all those, but so anyone with a 3420 is going to have a habit of being busy. The 34th gate is the gate of busyness. It's the gate of power. It's here to fuel integration, not fuel, but give life force, vitality to integration, to the individual process in life, because it gives power to the 57, the 20, and the 10th gate. So anyway, so there's this alchemy between the 3420 and the 5955. And so here you have the busyness of busy. 3420, just, they say it's a design where thoughts must become actions. Now it doesn't mean they should. That's the thing, is every good idea you have, or I know for myself, every good idea I used to have was, I turned it into a business. Like, oh, I can make money off it. That's why the 3420 has kind of an entrepreneurial side to it, because we have to use up that energy. We have to get that energy out. So naturally, it's going to, we're going to want to find a way to channel that into our work, because that's how we, it's where we use up our energy. So the alchemy of that with this, the 5955, which is this, sensual, sexual, emotional energy, which is kind of fueling that in the background. So I'll get more into detail about that, but the two of those together kind of create this, I'm going to keep going and have this experience, this intensity, this beauty, or this depth, or whatever it might be, and then it just kind of goes like that, and then it's like you can't see out the windows, and you just end up crashing. So that's kind of the essence of it. So I would say that, to look at these four arms, I'd really like to start with looking at the 55, the 55th gate in the solar plexus. So, who here has the 55 in their design? All right. So, I mean, I have an open solar plexus, but this 55 it's a gate of moodiness. It's the gate of the abundance of spirit, and spirit, usually the way I interpret it in terms of that, it's not so much about spirituality. It's more like your mood, your feeling. What spirit are you evoking? And so the what are you doing? So yeah, the 55 gets to the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. So whatever emotional state someone is at, whether you're emotionally defined or you're open and with someone who's emotionally defined, it's going to it's almost like a fuel injection. It's not. It's if it's connected to the root center, it's going to be a fuel injection into your emotions. But it kind of has that. I think of it almost like an anchor, because no matter what the emotional state is in, that 55 is just going to sink into there and weigh it down a little heavier. So super, super moody. I am so much a part of my life journey has been about learning to be and understand and accept the emotional plane that we live on. No matter what my mind thinks it wants, I always seem to end up attracting emotionally defined partners. And so, but you just look at this configuration. I mean, the 55 is gate of intimacy. It's ready to bond. My first reading, my analyst called the 55 a little erection. It's kind of like that. It's just always ready to bond with the juiciness of the emotional center, you know, and it likes that. It likes what it's not. So and my mentor also kind of helped me realize that even though I'm single definition, it's almost like being a split. It's almost, when you have that 55 as part of your Incarnation Cross, there's like this magnetism that wants to bond these two together. So it's not literally a split definition, but there is this relationship there where you want you want to bond and go deep or go high or amplify the wave, you know. And it's an interesting gate too, the 55, because it's an it carries individual chemistry. So it's and it's in the emotional center. So the emotions, you know, are kind of all there. I mean, the 55, as we're developing spirit awareness, you know, it's very much about how we bond with other people. It's very much about like a social awareness in a way. And yet this is a very individual experience, you know, your own highs and lows, your own moodiness, your own melancholy or whatever. And so it has to ride those waves of either your own or others. And so now the 55 is actually where we're witnessing a change in the chemistry of our species. And so this is all leading to spirit awareness. And so we don't even really know what spirit awareness really is right now. We can start to touch upon it. We can start to recognize what that means when, you know, what happens when the wave breaks. You know, that's kind of what's happening. And so that's kind of the main theme of this era that we're moving into. Yes?
I'd just be interested to hear about the 39 and how it really works with the 55 to kind of...
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that today because that's kind of, I might mention it, but it's a little off topic.
Okay.
So, I mean, if someone has the 39, yeah, it's gonna fuel you're gonna have adrenalized emotions, you know, adrenalized moodiness. It's like, not only are you moody, but it's like, don't, leave me alone, or whatever. You feel it. You feel that pressure. You feel that adrenaline coming. It comes through in the aura. So the 55, actually the 55 in the 6th line is the main theme that we're moving into in 2027. Probably in January 2027, we're probably going to move into this overall theme of the 55-6 as a background frequency. 55-6 is called selfishness, and that kind of sums up what I was talking about. It's this very individual, moody, emotional state of taking care of yourself and bonding with people, you know, only bonding at the right time, you know, not bonding when your individual impulse tells you to bond. It's a 6-line theme, so it's only gonna, you know, kind of come off the roof or you know, come out of the aloofness when something's really worth bonding. So there's that. Any questions about the 55 or that energy, or anyone want to add anything to like major themes that jump out to you about the 55 or your experience about it, Nova?
I'm curious if you feel up for kind of exploring the difference between whether, you know, somebody has a defined, you know,
emotional
center with that 55 and open. So I know I'm defined, so I'm always on that wave. I'm always feeling that 55. I'm just curious how that works for somebody that's open, like when you feel that 55, how that works in your life with an open emotional center.
The analogy or the metaphor that came to me just like last week was I kind of was thinking of 55 like a leash. A dog leash. Maybe there's a better image to it, but it's kind of like, I mean, I'm just surrounded by emotional people. My first wife was emotional, my current wife's emotional, my daughter's emotional. It's like I'm always emotional women. Always surrounded by these emotional women. And so, you know, whatever mood they're in, it's like that leash. It's like, you're coming along with me. You know, and I'm just like along for the ride. And so that's why my moods kind of amplify. That's why I say it's like that anchor, where it's like, all right, you're at the bottom of your wave. I'm just gonna like sink down there and amplify it and witness it, really. Witness it as best as I can without acting on it, you know? Because, ultimately, I mean, probably being an open solar plexus is, I feel like I have tasted spirit awareness. I feel like I have tasted this kind of evolving emotional center. I'm actually really excited to see what this feels like as raves start being born and there's a whole different kind of spirit awareness. And so, I mean, that's a big part of this journey is and here I'm 12 years into my experiment and I'm still witnessing. Some days it takes me under, some days I can really witness. It's not easy. It really takes over. Our solar plexus correlates with our nervous system. So it's not this little box here in the corner. It's your nervous system goes through your whole body. That's why if someone's not clear emotionally, they're emitting emotional chaos into the environment. You can feel it in the nervous system. You can feel, that's why sometimes I think I feel nauseous sometimes, even when I'm around a really heavy emotional energy. Did you want to add something to that? So, did that answer your question? So yeah, this is definitely an energy which is part of the sleeping phoenix. Because I've been kind of talking about the lows a little bit, but it's also the highs, you know. And this is the real mystical part of it for me. Is, you know, I mean, I can take people to the heights if you let me, you know. If yeah. Because you take that, you harness that emotional energy. Like I actually brought some CDs to share with you guys. No one listens to CDs anymore, so I'm just going to give my CDs away. But you listen to my music, and it's like, oh my God, you must be so emotional. And it's like, no, I'm just taking everyone else's emotional energy, and I'm just, you know, sometimes it comes out as melancholy, but sometimes it's like, can raise that spirit too, you know? So I think when we talk about, you know, everyone gets so excited when we talk about the ideas of like, we're entering a new age and, you know, but I mean, there's going to be the highs as much as the lows. So, but, you know, we can 55, 6, you know, the highest of the highs and a 6-line expression, you know, in the this and the that of the 6th line, we can really have very transcendent, emotional, communal experience together. So,
I always, and this might be just normal egoic projection, but I always thought that my perspective has yielded that this is just a natural process of everyone's personality, like highs and lows. And is it just an intensity that we're talking about, or is it like?
It's just a quality of the 55th gate where it's kind of, or the 5539, the channel of emoting. It's got that energy where it's, maybe someone has a better way to explain it, but it kind of, you know, emotional waves are highs and lows, right? You know, you hope to pain, hope, pleasure to pain, hope to despair, you know, top of the world, everything's magical and juicy and all gonna work out, to everything sucks and everyone sucks.
So it seems that in the context of my existence, this is a faculty that needs to be like stifled in some senses. Like it's too, like sometimes it's overbearing on the environment, so naturally my adaptive process says, okay, these feelings need to be put to the side, they need to be put down, they need to be regulated. Is this something that we just can't do? Or?
There's none of that. It's more, are you open solar plexus or defined?
I'm not sure. Do you want to look at that really quick?
You're defined. So for you, it's more just about, you know, it's your authority. So it's just about waiting, you know, waiting for clarity over time. Your highs and lows are gonna, let's just say, feel cleaner to the other when you can practice, experiment, living by your inner authority, which is, you know, because if you're in the low of the low and you're not clear and you know, send that angry email, you know, you're going to create a mess that you have to clean up. So, but that's okay. And when that happens, I mean, that is something that we've all done that. We're all, we live on a planet where 50% of the world is emotional. And so the other half is amplifying that. So we're in a distorted emotional field, no matter how you want to get around it. So there's nothing to do but just to practice waiting, you know. Even if you're open emotional, you know, there's still you know, the 55 leads to grace. The 55 leads to the 22 up here in that same individual stream. So, you know, and then that's the expression of the individual emotional whatever experience. And so, you know, that's why the 12-22 coming out of that, you know, the 22 out of the solar plexus is grace or disgrace, and the 12 is called caution or standstill. All those things are about, don't say things at the wrong time. Don't say things when you're not clear. Don't say things when you're feeling really heavy or maybe just manic, you know, on the other side of it, because you're probably going to regret it and it's probably going to create some kind of resistance, you know, disgrace, you know, caution. If I've said things at the wrong time too many times, so I'm going to learn to not do that. So that's that. Well, since we're on the 55, let's kind of cut over to the 59. So,
Your places, I don't know the numbers when you say like Phoenix, you know, 3 or whatever, I don't know, but like, where does your 55, 59, you know?
For me personally, my personality sun is a 59-3.
Okay.
So I have 59, 55 in my personality sun earth. And then I have the 25 and the 34, 5.
20. Oh, 20.
I'm a 3-5.
25.
Yeah. So I have a 20 and the 34 in my design sun earth. So the 59 is coming out of the solar plexus, sacral center. It's a gate of intimacy, you know, always ready to bond. Always, the 59 is the ability to break down barriers to achieve union. And so, hey, Stephanie. So, she's our other sleeping phoenix here. And these are my other sleeping phoenixes. Yeah, why don't you come up here? Represent. There you go. Nice. Look out, here we come. So yeah, you know, breaking down barriers to achieve union. That is, you know, people love to talk about the 59 and the 59-6 full channel there, and you know, it is the 59-6 is the channel of mating. So a lot of times, it can be interpreted as sexual energy. It does have that. It's the life force. It's part of the defense circuit. It's all about creating more. But so there's a lot of creativity, sexuality, intimacy, bonding. I really like. I'm not huge on the gene keys, but I really like Richard Rudd's interpretation of the 59. I think maybe I forget what the term was, but it's transparency, and it's like when you fully match someone's vibration, or can really be intimate with wherever they're at. You know, they. It's like there's a total resonance there, and they feel seen, and that's into me see, and so, but it's just in the aura, it just comes out, and that's why I forget who I was talking with yesterday. It's like, you can be at the grocery store, and the checkout person's telling you they're what happened to them when they were children in the first 5 minutes, or 59, I've noticed, I've done hundreds of readings as an analyst, I've noticed men with a 59, you get friend-zoned all the time. Man, this was like the shitty ass story of my teens and 20s, where I'm like, I'm ready to bond, and everyone's like, I can just tell you everything. You just want to, I was like everyone's girlfriend, boyfriend, And so that's why I became a monk by the time I was 24, because I was like, fuck this. This just isn't working out, this whole bonding thing. So I can tell you, 59 isn't just about, I'm not whatever. you know that, but it's also, it's the this and the that, I was celibate for most of my 20s, and so it was definitely that. Let me just finish this train of thought 1 second. Get to your question. And so, so I've noticed that with men, and then with women, it's this creative, friendly, intimate vibe, and it gets misinterpreted as sexual energy all the time. And it's like, my wife has the 59-6. We'll be going out, and people will be like flirting with her, and I'm like, okay, 59-6, whatever. They're picking up on that vibe, and and so anyway, really good to be clear with your energy, and sometimes need to be clear with your words too.
I don't want sex. I just want to be nice.
Well, that's the thing is,
Want to hold your hand.
I'm kind of looking forward to the future days, because part of my experiment has been about exploring intimacy. That's my son, and I'm a 59-3, so trial and error intimacy. How far can we take this and still be clear energetically? I do massage as my day job, for a while. Yeah, I have no problem giving you the best butt rub of your life, but I'm not gonna, but I'm keeping my energy super clear, and so, and that's okay, I love exploring intimacy. It's not just sexuality. It can kind of come through in the aura that way.
It's fun when it happens, though, and it's correct, and because I don't get that much of it.
Well, yeah.
I just get pregnant.
It's interesting, because, my wife asked me a question the other day, and she said, well, you're always talking about this thing, intimacy. You're always talking about how you love intimacy, and how all the things you do with other people are just super intimate, but how do you get met in your intimacy? And I had to think about it, not too long, but I was like, well, my intimacy, the 59-6 is really it's a tribal channel. And it's all about, so it's a lot about intimacy is found in relationships. People who have the 59-6 as their life, as part of one of their channels, life force energies, you know, that makes them an emotional generator, but they don't always feel emotional. That's the interesting thing about that emotional definition is if you only have that channel, you don't always feel emotional to other people. The intimacy comes through, the emotionality comes through in your intimacy, in your relationships. So, yeah, I mean, people think my wife's just super happy and stable all the time, and then, you know, I get to see all the waves, because it's a lot of times it's about what's going on between us, so, or her. So, so the 59 has that, you know. So I realize I get my intimacy met in, you know, through my more sexual kind of relationships. So, so Nova, yeah.
I wanted to share something, and then I have a question. One thing I want to say is, as a manifestor, with this dense, repelling aura, the 59 feels like the only thing that ever really gets through.
Wow, cool.
I don't know if you have that experience, if any of you are listening, if that, you know, if you're aware of that, but I just figured I would share that. It's a very...
It's an aura
experience
breaker.
As a manifestor, yeah.
It's called an aura breaker. Penetration.
Great, I love it.
Penetrates the aura.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because my
Yeah.
sister has that, and I always think about that.
Yeah.
And that's why it gets misinterpreted, because
Yeah.
people are like, ooh, I feel you. That
Yeah.
feels really creative and juicy and sexual and intimate, and yeah, okay, I'll you know, but it's just in the aura. People aren't even aware of it.
Yeah.
She's
And
very
then I had another question, or I had
Uh-huh.
a question, something you said, I hadn't really thought of the intimacy needs of somebody with 59. I hadn't thought of it that way. Do you, I don't know if this is gonna be just too much of a question, or.
Bring it on.
It is what it is. In your experiment, do you feel that do you find that other people need intimacy more than you do, or do you feel like it's the same, or is, because I'm
What do you mean by
assuming
other
you-
people?
Well, when you're around people and they're like, oh, you're giving me that intimacy, do you notice that people are like, oh, give me that intimacy more
It's
than
hard
you're
for me to
wanting?
answer because, you know, all the things that I do, most of the ways that I relate to people are through my livelihood, which is, it's all about me being intimate with them. So, massage, I'm not taking my clothes off while I'm working on people. I'm doing design readings for people, you know, seeing what there is to see there for them. And then I do medicine work for people too, and that's obviously, I'm holding a tight space, you know, for people to be super intimate, you know, on a soul level. So,
I guess you're probably meeting them at the place where they need intimacy also, so that your perception of it is skewed.
yeah, so there is a little bit of a shapeshifter. I mean, maybe that's cool, kind of, you know, because that's the transparency, is I can morph exactly, it can bring my vibration and just, you know, I don't even know how I do it. It's
Comes available.
it's probably, you know, again, we have to take all the parts of our design. I mean, I have the 15-5. I love people. I love humanity. I relate to all the things that we go through as humans. And so, you know, for me, that's where I feel a lot of compassion. I think that 15-5 brings me, or that 15th gate, love of humanity, brings a lot of compassion, because, yeah, and 55, yeah, we all go through those highs and lows together. We all want love. We all want connection. We all want to be seen. We all want to be heard and held and you know, find wholeness somehow. So, yeah. Okay, so now, okay, so before I move on to the 3420, you know, this, to me, that 59-55 pairing says a lot about what this, you know, this energy's, the sleeping phoenix energy is about. There's going to be themes. So obviously this is going to play out in a million different ways depending on your design, your conditioning, you know, your trajectory and what happens to you in your life, your openness. But, you know, so there's going to be themes of trauma. I think to kind of sum that up, that's I think what I see. And I don't want to say that it's like, this is like a black and white thing for everybody. It might look a little different for everyone, and I don't want to be like, oh, this is exactly your experience, but yeah, those highs and lows around themes of sexuality and intimacy, and most likely those things not working out the way we want them to, which is usually what happens. Like I said, I was like, fuck this at 24 and became a monk. You know, it didn't work out how I wanted to, you know. And so that's kind of what we all experience in our life. It's like we all think it's going to work a certain way, and life, that's the human experiential way. Expectations, and then
Disappointment.
yeah, we all share that. So yeah, there's going to be themes. I think you're going to see that those themes of you know, maybe trauma and sexuality and emotionality, and so that's kind of the gasoline that's getting poured in to the sports car, the 3420. So 2034. Start with the 20th gate. So 20th gate is in the throat. It's called contemplation. We call it the gate of the now. The voice of the 20th gate is I am now. I am myself now. So it's a very in the moment, you know, kind of, very in the moment, the most in the moment gate, I guess you could say we have. And so this one's honestly probably the most obscure one for me to try to put into words or explain, but I really like, the hexagram of the 20th gate is like those, those Japanese gates. I forget what you call them, but
Torii gate?
What's it called?
Torii gate?
Torii gate? Yeah, maybe that's what it's called. That sounds right. But like, they're just be in the middle of nowhere. You'll be like walking up a mountain path, and there'll just be one of these things like in the middle, or a middle of a garden, or and it's like it's a gateway. It's a gateway, which honestly, well, I'll save that thought for a second. But it is so. What's a gateway? These are all gates. 64 gates. They're like, I really like thinking of gates as gateways in a way, because you're entering into a gateway of that energy. But the basically, wherever you are, there you are. That's it. And so that's the contemplation. It's like, what does this moment mean right now? And so the 20th gate in a way is like, this is just kind of my own words, but it's kind of like it gathers experience. It gathers, the 20th gate is the voice. It's the voice of the individual. It's ready to express from the 57, from the spleen, from the 34 in the sacral, from the 10 in the G center. It's ready to give expression and voice to those three very different, powerful, individual energies. And the individual is all about the moment, all about living in the moment. And so, kind of interesting that we have this juxtaposition with the 20th gate of the now and the 55th gate, which is, you know, along for the ride. That's kind of what I was trying to say, why it's kind of, that 55 is just kind of adds to the melancholy, because it's an individual. It wants to be in the moment. It wants to be in the moment. And here it's like, here we go again on the roller coaster, just along for the ride. So, you can probably speak to that. But,
My child Muddy?
yeah, but I'm not. But that wasn't an invitation. He's like,
That's why I said it as a question.
well, there'll be room to share. Yeah, I mean, I can't. These are all just energies. That's all human design. It's like a soup of all these energies. So it's like, how do you explain what it tastes like when you stir it in a pot and put it together? You know, we're all gonna have different expressions of how we explain these, you know, dilemmas and seemingly contradictory energies and whatever. So yeah, the 20th gate. That's what I was saying. It's kind of like gathering this experience from all these different places. You know, what's been my direction? What's been my splenic awareness? What's been, you know, my life force? So that's why it's called, you know, contemplation. But anyone want to add anything about the 20th gate? Any inspirations or any of you phoenixes that is that where?
I'm not a phoenix, but I just find like, I find my energy, so I have the 34, 20, and the 10, but that's all, mostly unconscious. And I find myself like in moments where it's like for an example, last night, it was like, there was still, I don't know if it was like my sacral energy, but it was like, and maybe it was not self of the mind, but I found myself like wanting to figure out what's happening next, right? Like what's going on next, right? I definitely have that like entrepreneur channel where it's like, I want to create, I want to move at this energy, I want to create more, right? But it's almost as if it's like what's happening next versus being present in the now as much as you were talking about with the 20th gate. But it's just something that, it's not like all the time, but I do find myself wanting to like get into the next thing.
Right. Well, that's kind of what we were talking about this morning, you and I, because that is again what I was saying is almost the fault, I guess you could say, or the habit, the habitual nature of any manifesting generator. That's what makes us asleep. is you know, a design where thoughts must become actions.
Yes.
It's like, what's next? You know, what can I do now? What can I be busy doing now? But are you responding? You know, if it's not, if you're an MG, or if it's coming from response. So, that's. I'll come full circle to that in a second. So, and then we have the 34th gate. Such a powerful gate. I mean, I've just, even as a manifesting generator myself, when you start teaching people about design, you're like, oh, you're supposed to make noises, and it sounds very primal and animalistic, but when you think about it in the context of this fire down here, that's fueling the life of the planet. I mean, it's so powerful, and you think about just the mapping of the body graph. It's it's format energy from the root center, and then it's coming up and fueling the life force, and then that's coming out in the defense circuit, creating more and protecting more, and then these tantric channels just rising the energy up to the self, to know the self. And so anyway, there's such a powerful life force there. And the 34 is fueling individuality. It's for those of you who don't know, this kind of circuitry in here is called integration. 34, 57, 10, and 20. And this is what we call like the backbone of individuality, meaning survival, like to be an individual, to take care of yourself, to know what you need to do to stay a self-contained unit as an individual. So survival's not like I'm like naked doing a bow drill thing in the woods or something like that. It's like, you know, it depends what the 34 is hooked up to. I mean, I have the 3457 to the spleen, and so it's like it's very internal, primal intuition. Like something's not right here. I gotta just leave right away. You know, 3457s don't say goodbye. They just duck out. You know, gotta go take care of myself right now. And so. So anyway, it's so integration it's all about self-empowerment. And so yeah, this is a major theme of Sleeping Phoenix and the age that we're moving into is, you know, what do you need to take care of yourself right now? You know, creatively, with being busy, with your work or whatever, through response. So learning to harness, learning to respond, you know, is so important for a 34, because again, that's really what's creating the sleeping part of it is I've got to be busy, I've got to be doing something, I've got to be using up this sacral energy, you know, and so there's a power there, there's a superpower there, and when that 34 is connected to the 20, anytime something's connected to the throat, it's going to have an impact. It's going to have an oomph out into the world. And so,
are you talking about responding to the energy that's moving in you, or circumstances, or is there a difference here?
I'm talking about entering into things through response. So, if you have, a manifesting generator has to learn how to respond to as their strategy. So that means not every good idea has to become a business. Every good idea has to take action. It's a design where thoughts have to become action. And so it doesn't mean they should, because that's where we end up being frustrated. We end up taking on too much. We end up spinning our wheels. We end up crashing and burning, and mostly being frustrated, because we want to go on to the next thing. We want to. It's a habit, even if it's whether it's conscious 3420 or unconscious 3420. There's a part of you there's a habitual nature. So manifesting generators or sleeping phoenixes, you know, one of the most powerful things you can do is, you know, slow down and respond. I was like, we were in this meditation this morning. I was saying, you know, I'm still buzzing, but it feels really good to slow down, because now when something comes to me, I can be like, that's the cheeseburger I want. You know, literal, the figurative cheeseburger.
It's a great ending.
Yeah. What the hell is he talking about? So.
Individual circuitry, or the integration circuitry, yeah, that's.
No, cheeseburgers.
Oh,
Is that like, you know, when you want a juicy cheeseburger, that's when you're like, yeah. That's just me, I guess. So learning to operate from that, besides, I'll eat whatever you put on my plate. And so this cross also is 3 parts individual. So individuality is going to come with a lot of melancholy, creativity, you know, knowing what's correct for you in the moment,
I want to add something
about the response for folks with the integration circuitry, or maybe I'll just speak from my own experience, but I did not resonate at all when I first came to human design about the guttural ahas and ahs. And it wasn't until I got around to other human design people who noticed that it's more of a movement towards a thing rather than a guttural sound that says yes or no. And so anyway, I wondered if any others, is that true for you too? Or do you
For me, a lot of it's times the words that come out of my mouth, because there is that direct wiring. So you pay attention to the actual words you say. But I personally recognize that my 3420 is, I think of it like a bridge, because they say manifesting generators can get things done twice as fast as everyone else or whatever. But if you're not responding correctly, you're gonna. And I'm a 3/5. I'm gonna that's why I never worked in a restaurant, because I just knew I'd trip and fall and drop everything and whatever. But but when you respond correctly, meaning when you really when you recognize you have the available energy here, and you hear, yes, that sounds awesome, that feels really good to me, then it's not always a given that it's going to create that oomph right away. For me, it's like there is an element of mastery, of having done something at least enough times that I'm comfortable with the process. And once I've built that bridge, then I can do it. But if it's the first time I'm doing something, it doesn't mean I'm going to do it right or be good at it or anything. But once I've mastered it, or once I've, got to a certain level of proficiency at something, then there's a real power to it. So anyway, so what happens when we, that's where the bird starts to wake up, and that's what I was talking in that poem is surrender, and for a manifesting generator, for a sleeping phoenix to really understand what surrender is all about, you have to die in a way, because you really have. There's an alchemy, there's a quantum, there's something more than just this being a mental process, because it's like giving birth to yourself, because in a way that 3420 can't stop, that intimacy can't stop, that 55 emotion, riding those waves of the spirit, it doesn't stop. And yet to learn how to respond, to learn to not be a creature of habit, just being busy, there's, you have to experience surrender. So, I'll just share a little story here of when that actually broke in me, because that was kind of the experience that I had, and so that happened to me through a series of medicine with ayahuasca journeys. Those of you guys who know me know that's I lead medicine journeys for people, and I like to work with human design and that stuff, but not going to just not talk about that, but that's a little thing that I do. And so, but part of my journey years ago was when I would do these medicine journeys, I would experience all these deaths. I was living out all these deaths. I mean, we've lived and died thousands of times. We've all died. We all know what dying is like, but somehow hidden from our memory, but we all know what death is like. So, but I was reliving it. I was living car accidents and rape and all these violent deaths over and over and over again. And I was like, what do I do about it? What do I do about it? And then, kind of cut to the chase, the place where I got to was I can't do anything about it. I can't control any of this. We've all had experiences where we felt out of control. This is kind of what it comes down to with the mind. The mind wants to control everything. The mind's built to do that. The mind it's just trying to help, but it doesn't. So eventually I found this place in me where I was like, I can't do anything. I surrender. I accept there's nothing I can do, and it's okay. That sounds so heavy and hard, but it's actually, I don't have to do anything. It's all, whatever you want to call it, in terms, life or God or the gods or spirit or whatever. Life's going to take care of it. Life has already been taking care of it for since the beginning of creation. So, but that was an embodied, but then I experienced that. And that's something really changed for me in my personal human design experiment at that same time, because, and that's another thing that I was shown on another journey I took once in relation to this, where I had this very direct experience that, like we say, we're not here as, unless you're a manifestor, you're not here to initiate. We're not here to move towards life. And I had this very visceral experience of being and everything coming to me, and how that was correct. That was, and I felt how correct that felt. That I don't need to be in control. I don't need to say, well, I got to go do this. I got to come out of that, disturb that center, disturb that stillness, And so, so this feeling of like, just let it come. At that effortless living. And so, you can get there in your own human design experiment without taking it. But that's the experience. I mean, I think that's when, like I was saying, that's when the bird starts to wake up, because and then you have something happens, that power, the expression of the power in the moment to take other people to very deep and high places that's the gift of the sleeping phoenix. And so I hope that gives you some feeling about what does it mean that we're moving into the cross as the sleeping phoenix. Most likely it's going to be the very not self expression of most of these things. People being just busy, people deep in their own, kind of selfish or closed off kind of communities, or and then the all the weird sexual things we're gonna see in the 59, and all the high, all the highs and the lows being amplified with all those things. It paints a real nice, picture for the new age or the dark age, So, and it can really be both. I mean, we were talking, a few of us were talking last night, and I was kind of just remembering how, we are moving into a 6-line theme in 2027. And so, what was I correlating with that? It just, I forget the exact correlation that I went through inside myself, but how it's going to be very much about, very important to, I think, get back to nature, get back to, the natural world where these energies can evolve in a healthy way, in an integrated way. We have to, there's integration as part of this cross. Taking time to be with yourself, taking time to be intimate with yourself, taking time to feel all you need to feel. And so I think, and it's, it's the time when the 9-centered being is going to really come alive, really start, the rave is going to really start. This nine-centered species is going to kind of take its next quantum leap, and so what that means, the nine-centered being is a receptive being. Everything is built to come to the nine-centered being. That's where our species is. We're like, I mean, like, you know, you hear Ross say, we're like an in-between species. We're just learning to get out of this mental dominance and move into a phase where we can just, like I was saying, just surrender and let everything come to you. And so, you know, you hear other, you know, kind of crossover ideologies talk about the feminine, the age of the feminine, the age of the Holy Spirit, and all this stuff. Well, that's what it is. It's inside of us, the receptivity, the feminine. And so, as we can learn to be receptive and let the power of nature, you know, guide that for us, I think it's going to really help. So, would anyone like to add anything?
We'll feel better if we do that. And for me, it's all about feeling better, you know. It's not, I mean, melancholy, we experience so much emotion, you know, through the whole 9 centers, you know, because it travels, right? But, yeah, the surrender is the peace. That's the peace of the manifesting generator, for sure.
I mean, it's really the
spirit,
path of anyone on this experiment. Is even if you're a splenic manifester, you know, you still have to wait. You still have to wait to get the right hit. You know, everyone has to wait, and so that's where the surrender and the magic.
I like it. I like learning to surrender. I'm really loving that part of life. Yeah, I probably couldn't have done it at your age, but you can do it.
Can you touch on the gate 10 element too in contribution to that? Because it does kind of feed into either the 34 or the 20.
It's one of the 4. Well, actually, it is one of the 4 integration gates, and so there is an element of, you know, needing to do what you need to do for yourself to take care of yourself, but it's also part of the centering circuit. I mean, anywhere, I guess to put it really in the most simple terms, it's one of the very strong individual gates. So it's going to come with those themes of melancholy, needing time for yourself, needing time to empower yourself. It's what we call it's a profiling gate. So it's out of the 10th gate, you see the different behaviors of the self. The 10th gate is called the behavior of the self. So if you're a 5th, you're I don't know what gate your 10 is in, but you're 5th.
Yeah.
So you're also a 5th one. You're also a 5-1. So you're very much that a fifth line being. You know, needing you're a heretic and a savior and everything in between.
Thank you.
Any other contributions or questions or insights? Or, I mean, so yeah, I don't have any other conclusive statements to that, but just just to give you a little flavor of those 4 gates and you know, so yeah, what does that mean for you to wake up? What does that mean to slow down?
I mean, I got really present to just you bringing up, I mean, as a man gen, like I said, I'm always like ready to like pounce on something. But, you know, just really surrendering to those moments of like not knowing what's going to happen next and being okay with that and bringing like breath into that space of just allowing things to come and for us to respond to, you know, I mean, that hit home for me for sure, as a practice to bring in a peace for sure, my own design.
Yeah, kind of on the lines of what you were mentioning is, you know, the waiting, the surrendering to the waiting process experiment is it creates a sensitivity. Because when you're just living out a habit, you're desensitized to some degree. So, you're not able to see what's the amazing things that are coming to you. You're not even available because you're off doing something somewhere else. You're off doing 5 things at once somewhere else. So by the waiting, the stillness, being with your breath or whatever that means to you, by just not initiating something else or making a decision for something else, then you just create that space to recognize when something pops out of the program that you've been waiting for, and it's the most vulnerable thing for anyone in the experiment is the surrender, because that's it goes against what our mind wants, and so to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, to learn to be take off the good and the bad and say even Stephanie said it's all about feeling better, but even just being able to be with all of it, because who knows what's going to come. The more you can just be, that's when this magic of how we create things or attract things through our purpose, through our Incarnation Cross, just end up showing up in our life. So
it seems to me that you're talking like witnessing is a common theme in learning to respond to situations, because as you see things start to rise, and then you act within your authenticity and apply yourself to the best of your knowledge to the situation, whether it be speaking at the wrong time, and then just that witnessing kind of shows you, where you can apply yourself. I'm curious on because it sounds like an emotional imperative, like a push, and that's what I feel personally.
It depends on everyone's wiring. I mean, in this example, if we just look at those 4 gates, you've got the 3420. So it is the throat, it is the voice. There's so much conditioning around speaking, so much sleeping around conditioning, around our voice and speaking, because someone says something and I've got to say something. Someone presents something and I've got to respond to it, So for me, practical tools for witnessing is, let me just practice not speaking right away, because then I'm going to commit to something, or then I'm going to distract myself, or, and if you're not clear, or, you're going to get tied into something that's probably going to end up meeting resistance or frustration.
So I am not across the sleeping Phoenix, but I've had a chance to be close to some. And if Peter, if you have something to say about the relationship of the sleeping Phoenix and with this integration energy to the tribe, because I'm very, I got a lot of tribal stuff going on. My only channel is tribal. And what I find is my contact with the people who are on the cross of the sleeping Phoenix is almost this, they like touch and go with the tribe. And they bring me things that like move me, and but then they disappear because they got to go back to their own process. It's like they come in and they drop you some jewels. So you have anything to say about that kind of?
Well, I'm a 59-3 son, so yeah, I'm gonna come and penetrate you, and then I'm out of there.
I got 6. I'm just saying.
So I mean, I can relate to that dynamic where it's like, and I'm single definition, so I'm like, yeah, that's what I do. I go in, I do my thing for a concentrated period of time, with the tribe, and then leave me alone. I need to break the bond.
Yeah.
So, but that's me as a third line personality. But the 59 is a tribal. It is tribal. So I think as much as it all that integration conjures up this imagery and feeling of, I'm just gonna be alone by myself, or even with my family or community. I think there is gonna be that tribal element of, taking care of your people, you know, or however it comes across. I mean, being a 59, it's taken me a little bit to really, I mean, if you know it's my conscious son, you know, I identify more with my unconscious 3420. I'm like, I just want to be busy creating, you know, or maybe it's my only conscious channel is 55. I just want to be, it's sort of similar. I just want to do things that give me energy. I just want to play music. That's all I really want to do, consciously. But when I look at my life, I'm like, here I am with another community. Here I am having another kid. Here I am, you know. I'm like, I mean, obviously I don't have that many kids. I have, you know, I'm not trying to reseed the population or anything, but, you know.
We'd be better for it.
But yeah, if I'm one of those people that gets taken on the Ark or the spaceship to reseed a new planet, I'm all about it. You know?
And one more thing, so the 3420, which is, so it's really, I have a joke, and it's probably a terrible joke, but I've noticed a lot of entertainers and people who are actually, in some ways, so one of the things I'll say when I see it, I'm like, oh, when are you going to start your cult? But I don't really mean it as an offense. It's really that it's that individuality, that selfishness is actually, not only is it, you know, taking you away from the tribe to do your own thing and to integrate something new and sometimes bring it back to the tribe, but it seems like, one, I see it with a lot of musicians or entertainers. I found out a good friend of mine who like didn't start singing till he was 42, like man is like blowing up, and I was like, I looked at his chart and I'm like, holy smokes, like this is powerful stuff. Because it is a channel of charisma, right? That's the 3420. Yeah. And but what I find it does, you know, as a part of this complex in relation to some of the selfishness, it almost comes across as this individuality that makes me feel comfortable being individual. Mm-hmm. So I want to thank y'all for that. Thank you.
Love you, Adrienne.
No, you for real though, because like I've been following her on Facebook for so long, and that energy that you talk about with the sleeping, I didn't know until we got here that was your cross, but now I understand what I've been experiencing. So yeah.
But I kind of like what you said about the culty thing, because that is the crash and burn. You know, I'm doing my thing. I'm doing my intimate thing. You know, I'm a musician. I'm just gonna like, you know, play music and then party and keep doing that until I crash and burn. You know, I'm gonna get on my spiritual kick and isolate myself, and you can come and join me if you want, but I'm busy empowering myself until you realize, I don't have anyone left in my life, or like in my case, I ended up sleeping with one of the nuns and got kicked out. That's another story.
I hear that one.
That's what he said, I penetrate them out. I'm like, yeah, I met that dude.
Yeah, that was the exile part of the poem. Yeah, you have an hour to pack your bags and leave. That's what I was told.
That's how I get asked to leave.
So.
Totally. Like it happened the other way around too. The other person also have an hour to pack their bag and leave.
But and I think that might be like, that symbolic time when you are popping away from the tribe. Because there's a dance there, the isolation in the people, and so like that is so traumatic. I didn't know that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, that's why Ra's saying when these people wake up, it's going to be really powerful. But I still wonder, it's like, well, what does that mean to not crash and burn, to not be so focused, to not have all those themes driving it, So I think we'll figure that out. Anyway, in my last thought, my last kind of overarching thought is, what is your incarnation cross? What are your four gates that create that same alchemy? And and how it creates your your purpose. And it's not like your 15 minutes of fame purpose. It's like, what are you here doing? What's your geometry line that you're on? And so, there's a magical alchemy that happens with these 4 gates. And so that really kind of pleasantly surprised me to really see, wow, that's what happens when you put these 4 gates together. It creates all that dynamic. So anyway, thank you so much. And if anyone wants any of my CDs, I have some guitar stuff, some instrumental stuff on piano, and so you can get that Sleeping Phoenix
Soundtrack.
vibe that comes through.
Bob Dylan.
Are they all the same? Or?
And I got about 4 or 5 different
He's
ones.
asleep.
Nice.
I can just say.
Yeah, grab whichever one calls you.
I don't know if we're
And so Amy's going to be talking next. Amy, do you need like a 15-minute break, or you having someone?
Yes, she is.
Can I see,
Didn't hear you.
can I see this one to tune in?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't catch the whole part of it, but like, it doesn't have to be now. I would love to ask. I have a friend who was like, yeah, check out my chart and as you learn stuff. And she's